All right, what's going on, everyone? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? You guys, oh man. You guys, I saw a Black History Month quote. It's on a billboard out here in Sacramento, driving on the freeway, and the quote was like, "Celebrate Black History Month. There is beauty in diversity." That was the quote. I want to say they said it was from Maya Angelou, and I'm like, why on Black History Month? A month that's supposed to focus on our people and focus on who our people are distinctively, distinctively who we are. Why does that get tied into the whole diversity? Diversity means everybody. It can mean uh, anybody who's not a white male. Literally, diversity, a little bit of everybody. Even it could include, I mean, it just means a little bit of everybody. That's not celebrating our history, because what they try to do with our history is make it seem like that civil rights movement, like we, since we're the ones who push for people of color in general, and specifically black people at that time, to be able to have the rights of any regular citizen, everybody else enjoys that, whether it's Asians, whether it's people from Arabs, whether it's people from islands, people from South America. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter who you are. Black people are the ones who sacrificed and were pushing that fight to allow all of this integration to happen, whether it was bus systems, schools, restaurants. This is why when I show up at restaurants and you got people there looking at you like they don't want to serve you, or they don't want. I'm like, dude, like we are the people who we are the descendants of the people who fought so that everybody could do these things, and now all these other groups will look at us with like a certain type of disgust when we show up to a place. There's a line in a song, got me feeling like a stranger in my homeland, and that's what I always feel. I'm like, hey, this is our homeland, literally the homeland. Literally, I've said this before. My ancestors are here before there's a country here. Before there's a USA country here, my ancestors are here. So there's no country here, and our ancestors are already here. This is our home to the core. This is our home as far as this country we're living in, and we've been in, and fought wars in, and fought wars for, and built the economy up enough to the point where they could have the American Revolution War. By 1776, they have an American Revolution War. They already had to have a economic power, an economy, to fight a war against Britain that was a great nation at the time, one of the greatest nations at the time. And they fought them and won based on the money and resources they have for the military to fight that. That comes from the black slaves who are already here. You've been with this country right along for the ride and had to fight for your rights in every single aspect of it, right? So we're a specific group. We don't have to celebrate everybody's diversity. The other quote on the screen was like, if you can't get a seat at the table, bring a lawn chair. That's not our history, you guys. Like, I mean, they just put up quotes up there that kind of just, it's like, it's patronizing. It's like celebrating black history is always celebrating struggle, always celebrating pain, always celebrating. Our black history is way deeper. That's why I told you guys at the beginning of Black History Month, take back to God, take back and put Christ in his proper perspective. That a lot of that is for shock effect. A lot of that is for you guys to start questioning things and understanding. It don't matter about color with people and stuff like that, but a lot of this stuff that we are already programmed into has been set for us, and we didn't even have no say so on it. So we're peeling that back. So that's just interesting things that I see with these Black History Months. I see it even on like the NBA or NFL channel. You see different low key, like they're celebrating black history, but it's like that's not really our history. That's you just kind of talking about some struggle or something. Our history is deep, and it goes far back, and it goes way before you even have Christopher Columbus showing up here. Our history goes back, and it's deep, and you got to take back all of your history. All right, you got to take back all of your history. Speaking of the NFL, did you guys see the Super Bowl? I didn't watch the whole Super Bowl, but did you guys see the national anthem when it was sung? They had the white country singer up there with our sister, her. And no, not her, Jasmine Sullivan. It was Jasmine Sullivan. And I think her was singing another song at a time. But I don't like that, man. I don't like, they always give the illusion that everything's good. And I'm like, this last year, we just had this big situation with not just George Floyd, but you had Breonna Taylor get shot in her sleep. And The whole country was put on notice about it, and the whole country as a whole just let that be. Just kind of everybody looked the other way on that one, you know. And Breonna Taylor's just one situation. There's so many situations, deaths that have occurred in this last year, and I think the NFL trying to portray as if all these race relations are cool. We're gonna sing the national anthem that black people have been protesting and fighting against, and they're unhappy in this country, but we're gonna make it seem like it's all good and put a white man and a black woman up here to sing the national anthem together. I don't like none of that. I don't like none of that at all, to give the illusion that everything's good when it's not all good. It's not all good, and that's why I'm speaking on here. A lot of you guys continue to email me. That always lets me know what to talk about. You guys are asking a lot of questions about white people. You guys are asking a lot of questions about white people. How do I feel about white people? White people with Christianity and stuff. Here's my thing on white people, you guys, and how, white people's feelings. Like, hey, you're making it. You might turn off a white person to Christianity, this or that. You guys, I'm not really focused on any other group's feelings about me. I think as a man, when you meet a man, he's really concerned about other people's feelings about him, how other people are viewing him being himself. That's normally a weak-minded man. He normally doesn't have a mission. He doesn't have something that he's just striving for. I'm not saying there might not be other strengths, but he's not going to get no mission done if he doesn't get over that fear of what people think about him or say about him or perceive him to be a certain way or going in a certain direction. You got to get over that fear of how somebody feels about you just to reach your own potential. That has nothing to do with manhood or womanhood or anything. That's just your own potential. Get over the fear of what other people feel about you, especially when you know that what you are doing is right. If you know what you are doing is right, you have got to get over that. You wouldn't have had a MLK if he was concerned about how other people felt about him. All the leaders we honor, all the people we respect, they didn't care about how people felt about him. People felt a type of way and wanted Harriet Tubman dead. Harriet Tubman didn't care about how people felt about her. So specifically black men, you have to get over caring about how white people feel about you. You're never, as a black man, you are never going to fit into colonization. You are never going to fit into this system of colonization. And the way I should say that is more so you are never going to reach your potential trying to fit into somebody else's perception of you. If somebody else has a perception of you, and they're above you, they're the class above you, and they have a perception of you, and that's all they're allowing you to be, is what their perception is of you, you're never going to reach your potential. As a black man, your first role is a protector. And we know that black men who are willing to protect the community could get killed at any moment. They could get killed for talking about wanting to protect the community. They could get killed for talking about standing up for their community. We've seen this historically before, in slavery, after slavery, post-slavery, all of that. We've seen this. But your first role as a man is a protector. You can't shy away from that role if you want to play the role of man in your community. You can't shy away from that protector. If you have a black mom, you automatically are part of the black community. If you have a black mom, you automatically are part of the black community. The woman keep that community going. Your black mother is with a black community of people. Black grandmother, black family, black aunts and uncles. You have a black mother. You automatically have somebody who you should be willing to die for and protect with your life. If you have a black mother, you at least have one person who you should stand up for and say, hey, this is my community, I have to protect this community, because anything that happens to a black woman in my community, if it's allowed to happen to a black woman, it could happen to my mother. Your first job as a black man is to think about and protect your seed, your woman and 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 your seed. If you don't have the seed yet, you need to be dealing with that. Hey, how am I going to protect and provide for my woman and my seed? Right? You guys got to get over caring about how white people feel about you. Another thing is, people of other groups, they'll respect you for standing up for your group, especially if your group is an oppressed group, if your group is a group in chaos, turmoil, war, you respect the men who stand up for their group. You respect the women too who stand up for their group. But I'm just saying, any other group can respect a man standing up for his group, even if they might not agree with every single little point. You say a group that's oppressed, you can respect a man standing up for the group. If the other groups cannot respect that, then that lets you know you have an enemy. If I have other men from other groups who they don't respect or they feel some type of way about me standing up for my community, that's an issue. If they feel some type of way about me protecting my mother, protecting my family, my future seed, and thinking about that and putting the necessary steps around me to protect my family, that is an enemy. That's not someone I want to be under the illusion of just some good white people or something like that. I'm going to be about my mission. The enemy shows themselves to you. The enemy shows themselves to you when you're focused on your mission. You know who's standing in the way of your progress when you're focused on progress. You're like, well, why are you standing in my way? I'm focused on progress. Why are you standing in my way? I'm trying to speak to black youth and get black youth empowered and keep them from being, what the media wants them to be and tell them to be and let them reach their actual potential. Why are you focused on me? You see what I'm saying? We're speaking to black youth. We're speaking about the future and saying, what does the mindset, what does the thought have to be? What does the spiritual power have to be for change to happen in our communities? Right? So if you're a black man, you're supposed to be a protector. Like I said, the high school girl I saw a video where she got knocked down by a cop, like unconscious. Dude, I'm gonna have a black daughter. I'm gonna have black nieces. I'm gonna have black people in my family. I'm gonna be a protector of my family for a long time, Lord willing. If God gives me breath, I will be a protector of my family for a long time. And I have many people born and not born to think about, right? So this is all black men. This isn't just one group. People get over how white people feel. You guys, other groups understood that and said, hey, we let certain groups of people over here with their cultures and ideologies, they might wipe all of us out. This is the whole, Gandhi and the British, getting the British up out of India. Like, hey, they coming over here and doing damage to us as a culture. Now, we don't mind doing trade with y'all in the future or XYZ, but you guys aren't going to be able to come up in here and dominate us and oppress us. That's on the men in that community standing up. And the men and women are one teammate. But men, you're going to have to be the aggressor because the opposition's coming from white males. White male supremacy. That is what you are going to have to focus on. And focus on defeating that thought and defeating the propaganda that is fed all over the world with those thoughts, right? You're going to have to focus on protecting your community, protecting your woman. It doesn't matter if your woman sign off on it or not. You as a man have to step into that role of being a protector. I grew up with manhood rights. A lot of our African history, we had manhood rights. Like you couldn't call yourself a man just because you had money. You couldn't call yourself a man just because you had the right parts. You couldn't call yourself a man because you were 6 feet tall. You had to actually fulfill a role. You actually had to know a trade. You actually had to be a protector and have proven yourself worthy to defend. If not, you couldn't even get married. You couldn't even get a wife. They'd be like, you're not even fit to procreate in this community. You can't, because what are your children going to be? If you haven't learned how to be responsible, to be a protector, then what type of son are you going to have? All right? I'm just talking about how healthy communities did it in the past, right? I grew up with that where my father and the late Newton Ekpo, they had a whole manhood right with me where they got different men around to teach me different things and talk about manhood and transition to me in that stage at 17 years old, a decade ago. So there's an understanding for me with manhood that is protecting and providing. And that goes for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in a family, if you have a relationship already, if you're married or not. Whenever you're dealing with your female counterpart, you are a protector. Whenever you're dealing with black children, you are a protector as a black male. All right? You take that role And the rest of stuff can begin to fall in place. Right now, we have a community where we don't have protectors. You guys see certain people like the Israel government. When you're 18, you got to go straight to the military. You get drafted right for the military. It doesn't matter male or female. They're a strong nation, though. You can barely talk about Israel without getting kicked off of a channel or taking your contract from or whatnot. They're a strong nation because every single person in the group, in order to really be considered an adult, you're going to have to go to that military. You're going to have to put in work and effort for the group. We have a mentality as a group where we don't view ourselves as a group, or we see ourselves as isolated groups, separate groups, and all of these type of things. There's not strength in that. There's not strength in that. There's a way that mature groups look. There's a way that mature groups, men and women, work together with each other. There's a way that mature groups, men, respond to danger and respond to threats of danger. You have a situation like Breonna Taylor happening, that could happen to your sister. It could happen to your woman. It could happen to your daughter. You could be sitting here worried about white people's feelings and then end up having your children end up in concentration camps. You could end up being killed by a white supremacist, and your children grow up fatherless because you wasn't focused on white supremacy. I knew in Christianity when the 9 in Charleston, South Carolina were murdered. I knew right then, I was like, man, we don't need to respond in this way that we're doing. We're doing this because this is all we know to do. We're kind of in a culture now where it's just pray, sing, and march, pray, sing, and march. But, there's certain things you don't have to turn to the Bible to know that a man is supposed to protect his wife. A man is supposed to protect his community or be that protector role. You're supposed to be in that first line of defense. Before a bullet hits my mom, it should hit me. You're supposed to be in that first line of defense. That sometimes is publicly with speaking. Sometimes that's directly in physical confrontation. Sometimes that's in other ways. Sometimes it's just out looking and avoiding certain situations for you or family members, making sure that certain things just get avoided, right? But at the end of the day, when you have an atmosphere like we are in right now, where we see white males literally slamming our children and our women, then there's nothing about me that should be hiding behind that, just hoping it doesn't happen to me. You feel me? So we as men got to step up as protectors. You all, I don't speak as above you. I speak as one of you. I speak as one of you with siblings, with family and relationships and people I care about, male and female, all ages. I speak with you all right? But the men, you're gonna have to take that protector role. I know if you're focusing on provision and get that money, but if you stop and think a moment, before the provision, protection is more important. Just being in a position to be able to protect, you guys. Another question someone asked me was about working for white people and what I think about people who work for white people. I don't have an issue with somebody doing what they have to do. Everyone has to survive. Everyone has people have children. People have different things to think about. When I say I'm not going to work for a white person, when I say I'm not working for a white person, that is what I'm saying. And I'm honoring my ancestors in doing so, and I believe that's right for me. My ancestors have blessed me in that. I'm able to take that risk. I'm able to live in that freedom. Okay? Now, there's times where I've asked other people, some people might not feel like it's a plantation to be on a 9 to 5. Some people say, it's not that bad. Like, hey, I got a set security, and that's fine. I have no problem with somebody doing what they have to do. If I'm on a slave plantation with somebody and I feel like it's a plantation and they don't feel like it's a plantation, we can disagree and all this type of stuff. I'm still going to run. I'm not going to be on the plantation with you just because we all need to be unified or something like that. I'm going to run and figure it out independently. The ancestors will figure it out for me. The more I study the ancestors, the more I realize how much you don't need the money. Because our ancestors did everything and survived through what they survived through without being allowed to own money. They figured it out. They weren't even allowed to own money. Everything had to be given to you. The whole USA is, you have owners and you have non-owners. If you're a non-owner, you are producing for the owners. All right? That's just the system of the country we live in. So I don't speak down to anybody who works for a white person, because there's still times today where I borrow money from somebody who's working for a white person. Right? There's times I hit somebody up like, hey, I got to get you over the weekend. I got to hit you, let me get you next Friday or something. There's times where I have to do something like that from somebody who works for a white person. I don't look down on anybody who's working for them. But as far as my day-to-day, the first thing that God gives you is time. First thing God gives you is time. The first thing white supremacy takes away from black males is time. You got all brothers in prison just doing time. Time, 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 time. That's the first God-given gift. I do not want to right off the bat give another 40 back to a white person. I don't want to do that. I know that's all part of their plan. I understand people say go along until you can get out. I've already gotten out and I'm doing fine. I'm going to continue to do well. And I say that for those of you who are also thinking about making similar moves and walking away from your jobs or businesses or whatnot. If you think that in your mind already, you have the ability to do it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it was easy for me. But I figured it out. I figured it out real quick. When you figure out, like, okay, I'm not depending on anybody white to give me a paycheck. I'm not depending on, I'm just going to have a set job. I have to literally get my business going. I literally have to call this person. I have to talk to this person. I have to fill out this paperwork, send this in. You figure it out. And you start moving with some urgency when you realize that your meals are based off of it, okay? But I'll never give up that freedom. That freedom is a beautiful thing to have. That freedom is it gives you time to think, plan, and prepare so that I can protect and I can provide for the future, okay? So this is what I want to really get across to the black men, is to become protectors. Become protectors. Get over the feeling of caring how other people view you, how other people think about you. Become protectors. Start right there, wherever your day-to-day is. If it's, you're around children, you're around your sister's kids. If it's you're around your children, if it's around you're around cousins, your mom, your family, whoever it is, be present. Be present. Mend the relationships enough to be able that everyone knows there's care there and that there's going to be some protection there, that we love one another, to care for one another, to protect each other. And as men, that's our job, to lead it up. It's not even up. We don't even need to wait for the woman to give us permission to do so. As men, that's just something you do, and then the community responds to that. But as men, that's something you initiate. This is why I'm saying no matter what position you are in as a black man, you start standing up and speaking from your position for your community, from whatever position you're in. And in all things, when you're dealing with the women and children of your group, you be willing to protect them, and you be willing to die for those members, those women and children within your group, okay? This is some basic stuff this is basic principles of a mature group, okay? All right, you guys, we're gonna keep talking on here. Oh man, there's so much more I can say on here, but I don't want to keep the videos too long. I really like to keep the videos shorter, you guys, but continue to email me. I just wanted to get on here and talk with you guys about that for a little bit. Yeah, we'll end it right there at that. You all be smooth, enjoy yourselves, continue to study that black history, go past the 50 years of history. Go past the 1900s. Go past the start of the U.S. Understand black history deeper. There's nothing wrong with studying your history, you all. There's nothing wrong with studying your history. And there's certain places and levels of understanding you cannot get to unless you understand the history. It doesn't matter if everybody else knows it. If you don't know it, you can't step into certain forms of identity within your group. Our group is taught to be left out. It's taught to not know history, so that we can never really step back into our role in the human family, right? We have a role in the human family as a people. We have a role in the whole human family. We have a history that's a part of the human family. If you are living today, you are part of a history of people who survived. You are a group of people who survived. There's groups that had genocide committed against them. There's groups that have gone into slavery, never came out. There's groups who have been murdered, massacred, never ever seen again. We've been oppressed, down and out. We are still here. We're still thriving. We're still growing. But we got to continue. We got to continue pushing as a people. We got to continue pushing as a people. Black men, y'all got to go ahead and embody that being a protector for your community. All right? You all be smooth. I'll talk with you all real soon. All right. Peace.